Akengo, morning, Jira. Good morning to Emmanuel Serem. Good morning, long time, bro. Long time, my brother. Mishari and Mitch, good morning. We talk good morning to Emmanuel Serem. Amusha Lonat Serem, Chip Top Kibiri Reds. Honorable Moses Kebene, Niganet, keep quiet, keep. Good morning, watching live from Eldoret City. To be Caleb Korir, waiting for my home county governor. First of all, receive apologies from Governor Lee Kinyanjui. Kuna kitu anasema ilitokea. Hivyo angeweza kujumuika na sisi leo, lakini atakuja. Unfortunately, we are closing this week, so we will be able to have him early in January. Lakini amesema poleni sana, and he'll come in. Atakuja tu. Haya, Balozi Eric Sergei alikuwa ni Kakamega logged in. Asante sana. Service Robert, good morning, brother. Salimia Lee Kinyanjui kabisa. He once assisted me when I had a difficulty. Okay. Jeffrey Ro, good morning. Good morning to you. B Charger Asami, tuned in morning. Mr. Gerald San K, good morning to you. B Talk Duncan Muse, good morning to you. Watching live from Nairobi. Hilary Kirwa, Kimos Bay, Gerald Mambo. I've kindly send me a link. Elias Lagat, morning tuned in from Mosingishu County. Larry Kimonori, good morning, Gerald. Tuned in from Eldoret Chizingen. Asante. Emmanuel Weshuli, watching live from Kakamega. Haya, tulipa madeni kidogo. Alafu kirudi na kuja kuendelea na salamu. Maridadi Motors zinakuwa nafasi ya kuweza kuagiza gari kwa bei nafuu zaidi. When you import directly in Maridadi Motors, you get to save up to 300,000 Kenyan shillings. Unaweza kuna mahali pengine ambazo unapata deal kama hiyo. And also if you want to invest your money, if you have someone that's lying somewhere, you can invest your money at Maridadi import to sell model, where you get to earn up to 15% returns on your investment. Na pia if you want to join a circle for 2 reasons, either to save for a unit, you save 50% total value of the unit. Alafu nyingine unalipia barabara ukiendesha gari yako. Na kama pia unataka kuweka kama akiba, unawekeza kwenye Maridadi Sacco Motor Sacco, alafu unaweza kupata faida pia ya 15%. But Daddy Motors moves your status. Pia kama unajenga, there's no better place to get your roofing solutions than at Rexer Roofing. Rexer Roofing gives you a wide range of roofing solutions, from waterproofing solutions, which you're giving you 10% off this year and this month until December. The end of December, you're giving you 10% off the waterproofing solutions. Also giving you quality roofing shingles and stock-coated tiles, the most beautiful and the most amazing products from Rexer Roofing. Pia kama wakati huu kunanyesha Nairobi, if you're building, also ensure that you put in the water harvesting gutters. UPVC water harvesting gutters, 100% safe to harvest water for consumption. Alafu pia tunakopa 10 years workmanship guarantee. This is what we tell you, that within 10 years that you install on your roof, we'll be there to ensure that if there is a problem, we can fix it within 10 years. And you're also giving you 50 years product guarantee. I don't know where you'll be in the next 50 years, but I can guarantee you that your roof will still be there with you. Dandan Pale D Square as well in Eldoret ensures that you look good, as we look good every single morning. We're still saying Afia is the only way to ensure that you're indulging in 100% safe and healthy indulgence. Dried fruits from Sweet Tunda, 100% natural. Kenyan, this dried mango. I actually had a story with these guys, and it's amazing how the story that comes from the farm, the journey that a mango takes from the farm to this packet is quite amazing, and we'll bring you that story very soon. But you can rush to any supermarkets and you can get your packet of Sweet Tunda. Pia we are selling a nampa. A pound that goes for 1,000 shillings. A nampa inaenda only kwa 1,000 shillings. Na mpata granola, na mpata matunda mamekosho ambayo pineapple, na pia you get a dried mangoes from Sweet Tunda. Asante sana. Kichwani ndet anasema Judy from Jeteri Nandi, Shedi Chuka. Asante sana. Rob Kipto, good morning team Kuba watching. Ariamba Job, good morning to Tackle, watching from Nairobi Cabernet Road. Lagat your governor ingie UDA hivyo atakuwa kwa baridi next year. Okay. Eric Taita, morning to you, watching from Wilson. Emmanuel Wechuli, watching from Kakamega. Asante sana. Frederick Asbakiriga, good morning Gerald, watching from Kirinyaga. Senator Steve David Kipruta, good morning B Talk. I've enjoyed your shows this year. The guests have been good. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Thank you so much guys for always tuning in and giving us company for all good year. Matikans Sluiz 027 tuned in ukundrift ni UDA. Without that I think Governor atajipanga aurudi 2027. Emmanuel Shuli salimia Governor tano tena. Shedi Langat, good morning Gerald, watching live from Greentown. Haya. Mbona umefungua vigilante Arnold Maliba in uniform?
Sasa si unajua pale mimi nafanya kazi. Mbona unapiga kelele?
Watu unafanya kazi wapi?
Niko mzima tunazurura kwa mtaa majirani hapa.
Umekuwa fundi wa mbao, naona uko mpaka na penseli.
Kwa hiyo penseli mimi utembea na penseli kwa sababu kidogo inanikumbusha kitu moja. That above everything else we do, that I am actually a practicing Christian, that a pencil reminds me of one thing. That the reason why we have got erasers on pencils is that we are human beings, and when we do mistakes, when we actually get some things wrong, we can always like erase and work out. That is how much grace works for us, and how much room for amends we have as human beings. But I love using this because I also draw. I know you know that.
You draw sana habari unachoranga nini? Ama nani?
At work and everything else. I just don't do policy and politics. I do drawing. I've been doing that since high school. So, but I know it might not really look good, but I just draw because
because you love
Didn't mean it might
drawing.
not
because I
look
love drawing, and then one day, probably when I become president, people will be auctioning that art and saying it's what the president used to draw, and he wanted
When he
to feel
was
free.
hustling.
So someday you want to be the president of this country.
Yeah, I want to be the president at some point because I think we millennials are coming of age, and if we do not prepare, the way William Ruto always used to say, if you remember one of his line, safari ya kesho inapangwa leo. If we millennials do not actually like organize now, then Generation Zers are very organized. There's a small army behind us of people who don't have time for stories. So I like to become president probably in the next 10 years or so.
The next 10 years.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, interesting. Talking about millennials, do you think millennials are really interested in governance?
They are.
The same way of, and the Zers as well, the Zers are worse than the millennials.
You know, out of the generational imperative, or rather, let me just call it the demographic imperative, we then are thrust onto the arena as a people because the conveyor belt of life is such that the people who are ahead of us, you know, the people you used to see who are stronger, who are farming, today you go to the village and you see them using walking sticks and everything else. Now you have become that particular person whom your village looks up upon. So for millennials, by the way, it's time millennials stopped thinking that they are young. They are not young. Anyone born after 1980 up to 1996 is considered a millennial. Those guys are not young. We need to tell them repeatedly that the 29% of you, when we talk about the whole population of Kenya,
Please get closer to your mic, you pull it. I'm saying nasikia wanasema sauti yako iko mbali.
So the 29% of our population is that group that we call the millennials. Those people are no longer young because people born behind us. I'm talking about people born from 1995 to 2013. A number of them have become adults, and they do not, by the way, relate with us on the same level. They look at us and they're like, how watu wanafanya nini? We are not, as much as the constitution defines youth as 18 to 35, that is 17 years gap is a very long one. It's a whole generation in between there. So for millennials, it's time. I think we have got our firstborns already in politics. When I talk about firstborns, are people who went ahead of us, the Murkomens of this world, the Sakajas of this world. There's quite a number of them, Simbaratis and others. All those are millennials, by the way. You see them around there and they do not look necessarily as millennials, or rather as young because they're putting on suits and they're holding positions that look like it's serious. All those guys are actually millennials. So I do not think that millennials have got a choice. The future of this country, literally the future of the world today as it is actually in the hands of millennials now, where we are headed. That in the next 5 years, properly, it will be the millennials on the control seat. They therefore cannot afford to be lethargic around politics and governance. Of course, the characteristics of the millennials is that, number one, they are very selfish. It's about my wife, my car, my children, my house, my degree, and everything around that. A little bit for we millennials, we woke up too late and we were not able to collaborate to work together. On the other side, Generation Zers, this group of creatures who were born after 1996, they are a bit collaborative. I'm talking about those who we have already seen, who already have gotten into the age of majority now. They are collaborative. They love being part and parcel of solutions. They are very enterprising. They are global in nature. The only problem is that they might not be able to go to the streets because at any particular time they have got about 5 screens. You have got TikTok on this side. You have got Instagram. You have got Facebook, Snapchat, a lot of Twitter on the other side. That's why by the way, they look at Facebook and they think Facebook is very old. They look at Twitter and they feel like the people on Twitter are too opinionated. These are people who don't they have anything else? Why are they always angry? That is how actually Generation Zers look at Twitter. The guys on Twitter are so angry. The people on Facebook are so old. So they'd rather work on Snapchat, on Twitter, and the other space. So it's only fair that the people who call themselves millennials then now realize that in the next election, by the way, almost over half of parliament should be millennials. That's a fact. And if they do not organize themselves, if we continue, Maina Njenga, the former chairman for Mungiki used to say that this generation of ours is the 1, 2, 3, 4. one wife, 2 children, 3-bedroom house, and a 4-wheel drive car. We need to move away from the 1, 2, 3, 4 perspective, because of course we grew up under Nyayo. Things were so good under Nyayo, at least for us. Whereas all the people were struggling and fighting. For a number of us, tulikuwa tunakunywa maziwa ya Nyayo, tulikuwa tunaimbia Moi kwa barabara, tulikuwa tuna dance. We have not had a struggle of our own, other than, of course, the mental issues we have now, because life is turning out to be very difficult. And that's why we realize the mental health for that particular generation is also quite a problem, and as a country we took so long before we factored in. So of course, going forward, millennials have no option but to take part seriously in politics as the strategists, as the people who make things work. By the way, the economy today of this country is rolling on the cogs that are actually the millennials. It is these young people who are out there in Marikiti this morning. It's them who are taking care of our skies. It's them who are shooting and taking care of our borders. It's literally them who are running everything else. So now that they are in all other aspects of the economy and public management, it's only fair that then they find their way to the table of decision making. It will only be nice also for us to also lead, show an example, and then now invite and mentor the Generation Zers, whom we also do not think that are very prepared. But you can actually see how they are organized. I've told you on this show before that when I talk about millennials, all of us, the guys born in the 80s and through 90s up to 96, is that we were this team that will always ask for help. We have got a talent, serikali haitujali, tunataka youth fund, tunataka sijui nini, hizo funds zote and everything else. But just before you forget, when I became a teenager, the most popular music that were topping charts in this country was the Tanzanian music, bongo music, and the Niger music. And we used to give excuses that the reason why these guys are doing that is because we are not getting funding for talent and support and everything else. Gengeton, these are the guys the other day we were tweeting about and telling them, Ifikie wazazi. Those guys have effectively chased away the Nigerian music and Tanzanian music from topping our charts without asking for money from anywhere, without youth fund, without anything. They started with phones. They started meeting in Uhuru Park, recording their videos and doing their things the way they want. We didn't like it then, but you can actually see where it's coming. So Gengeton is actually a genre that has actually arrived. It's dethroned the other music, the foreign music that used to top our local charts every time and now. Now everyone here is singing about Atupangwingwi, Raila Wangling, Ngumi Nimbwekse, and everything else. Those guys have not asked for youth fund. That is what Generation Z. Those guys are enterprising. Those guys know how to work out. And they're doing it very well, by the way, without necessarily anyone helping them. So, but for millennials, if you guys musipojipanga, I can tell you the generation at Pangwingwi will actually panga you very well.
Pangaras.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
there's
also one key thing around that. You know, much as they are enterprising and also moving very fast, we also have to agree that the penetration of internet has come late, not in our time. It has come in their time. I mean, this is the best time that even in the village, you can get some real good internet in some villages, if not all. And during the time, Maliba and I and yourself, probably it was very difficult. Gerard, you can remember your first phone. They didn't have cameras like the phone now. Somehow the person with a good phone during that time, Maliba, would have been Nokia 3310, especially if it was white, and it didn't even have camera. You see, so we still had to ask government. Afadhali serikali saidia na simu iko na camera. Yeah, but now a phone with a camera is you can get a phone with a camera at 3,000, a good camera at 3,000. Those days, a phone with a camera, I think it was ministers and above. So that has also helped them a lot, the generation after us. And so during this time, they can make a video shooting at their comfort in the house. Again, you can imagine those days, there was no YouTube. We were working with something, what were we calling it? It was not even a flash disk. Ilikuwa hard disk, something.
Compact cassette, compact cassette.
Something around that. Even to store your documents alone was not very easy. online. And then we evolved mpaka siku hizi, even flash disk has gone. Everybody stores everything on YouTube or somewhere. And then in our days, Facebook started coming. Even when Facebook came, it was not so advanced the way it is now. We can now do Facebook Live. Those days, there was nothing like live Facebook. It was just Facebook like that. So this generation has a lot that has come at the right time for them to compete the world. And I think this is why they are very, very fast. And lastly, I would want to say something about the generation. I think it is still the
There's
generation.
a guy who was reminded us here about the floppy disk. It was called floppy disk.
Yes.
We used to call it diskette.
Diskette. That is the word I was looking for. So those are the days somebody, Gerard, do you have a diskette? Nisaidie na your diskette. And
it used to be in KBs, not even MBs.
In KBs. And this generation don't know diskette, for sure. And it's not like it is Sinjanthropus at a long ago. It's just the other day. And then lastly, there is something around politics, and this generation Maliba is talking about, the 1, 2, 3, 4. This largely are the generation we would, in our world, we would call middle class, although they are not really middle class. Globally, middle class is still above them. But in our context, hapa kidogo tu, hapa kwetu, they are the middle class. So there is one big problem with them, because they are the people who don't have they are not concerned with politics, because you can drive your car, you live in your house, maybe you have done the house, or you bought a house, apartment, you live in your house, you're driving your car, you've never had a problem with fueling it or servicing it. Your kids are in a moderate school, maybe 1 or 2 kids, and your wife is also doing something that is generating income kidogo. These are the generation who don't feel like they are concerned with politics. I mean, for them, politics is just for some people who have lost it. For them who are going the corporate way, or there are some serious people in the society. They are not supposed to get into those marketing. But the biggest problem is thinking that you are not concerned with politics. That doesn't make politics not concerned with you. Politics is still concerned with you, even when you completely feel like you're not concerned with it. So, and that is where we get it wrong, because when they are not concerned, then they realize all of a sudden, poop, we have somebody in the Nairobi as the governor, or someone in the constituency as your member of parliament. And they are beginning to ask now, how did so-and-so become our member of parliament? What the hell is this? How did so-and-so become our governor? Because they left those other people on the down, whatever, to make those decisions. And the last thing, we assume, and somehow I think it is hypocrisy at the highest order. Gerard, right now, if you have a sibling or a son or a daughter in high school, you don't want anybody to talk to them about politics. Like, these are kids in school, This is a Form 4, Form 3. Why do you want to discuss politics with them? You are corrupting the mind of children. Then in the next election, they are the majority at the ballot. So when did we ever say, now let's talk politics? Nowhere. Right now, some of them are sitting for their Form 4 this year. And they are voting next year. When did we discuss politics with them? No time. But they are going to be the ones at the queue ahead, because you will be feeling like, I voted in 1990 what, I voted in 2000 what. I mean, these votes don't even make sense. So utajikokota ufike polling station saa 6, utumane hiyo line iko aje, uangalie kama hiyo line is still and then the people who will be at the polling station at 5 a.m. are the ones who have just touched their ID for the first time, and they are in their Form 4 right now, or Form 3, or just out of school. And they will be making the decision while all the times they were in school. We as a country said, we cannot discuss politics with mtoto wa shule. How? I mean, that is way, hata ukifika hapo unawea umeenda sana, Gerard, umeenda sana. Sasa watoto unaongea nao politics juu ya nini? Hapo umeenda sana. Then they are coming to make the decision. What are they using to make that decision? And I think that is something we need to reverse. If we need to teach politics in school, let us do. Because soon enough, they are the ones making decisions. They are making decisions from empty head on matters politics.
Okay. But I think at the moment, the Minister of Education has actually tried to take care of that.
Yeah.
When you look at what they call the social studies, they are looking at current affairs, they are looking at politics, of course not in a manner in which it's hard politics, but they fairly have got an opinion. I actually have been able to look at a number of how CBC is actually approaching stuff, and I think we are making noise because we just love making noise. But CBC is actually very, very progressive. Very, very progressive. At least in how it's priming the children to face the world and meet it. We pick the smaller bits of it, especially when we are asked to spend money on some small stuff, when we are asked to participate in the process of our children's education, but it's actually taking care of that. I've looked at how social studies is doing that. At least for the first time, I've actually accepted to serve on a school board. That means I'm getting old.
Now we celebrated 50 years post-independence the other day, and there have been an argument as well. Is it 57, 58? But anyway, so we celebrated 50 years post-independence the other day on Sunday, and the president presided over a function at Uhuru Gardens. A lot of stories that came in, politics and politics that came up. But anyway, what is the state of the nation 58 years post-independence? Arnold?
Well, I still feel that in the construct that is Kenya, when we talk about the state of the nation, I think it's only fair that we disaggregate and talk about different nations that form Kenya. The state of our politics, of course, is pathetic, even though robust. That is one thing we really have to accept, that our politics is quite robust. We can be quite quarrelsome as a people. That is true. We could even once in a while get into scuffles, but we know when to stop. We still are a guiding light in the region, largely in the manner in which we conduct our politics. There are things that happen in this country, and our neighbors look at it and feel like, are these people normal? At least what is normal to us and what is normal elsewhere is not very normal in the region where we are. So I think there is the element of progressiveness on that particular end. The economy, of course, is in doldrums. We are not doing very well. 2 million people lost jobs just in the last 2 years. Adding on the perennial 5 million people at any particular time who have not been, who have always been jobless, as we work through that particular process, it means that now as a country we've got about 7 million people who are functionally unemployed, and that is quite a worry. If you are honest and you also are somebody who actually check out, you realize that there is an increase in crime. In the last couple of months, it's actually spiking and going up. Muggings have returned into areas in Nairobi. The break-ins in the villages are actually back. The numbers are actually out there. So, and crime is actually an indicator on the state of the economy. It might not be wholesome. It depends on how you qualify it as an indicator, but crime is an indicator on the state of the economy, especially petty crime. The muggings are back. People are walking into estates around here, and it's not easy. In the villages, of course, the break-ins are back, and the roadside, I don't know what to call it, but ile unyang'anyi ya barabarani imerudi pia. That speaks to the state of the economy. The schooling aspect, of course, on the other side, we are having the academic years overlying. So, like next year, we will be having 2 national exams, one in March and another one in December. But because, of course, we are obsessed with having the January to December calendar, so we've pushed things together and we are trying to move on. But over and above, of course, next year is a general election. It's a very important year for the welfare of the nation. You know, elections is the necessary evil you have to have a good country that we do have. Okay. Because legitimacy is important. How do you get legitimacy as a as a government or an administration to oversee the management of public affairs at any particular time, you need legitimacy. So you have to go through the messy process that is the elections. So for me, the state of the nation is still ish-ish. Of course, I do not envy the president that he has decided to manage his succession. In 2013, of course, we told the president then, Mwai Kibaki, to stay out of succession politics. At that particular time, it looked very trendy, but this time I can see a number of people, including those who told Kibaki to stay out of succession politics, now hailing the current president as a statesman and telling him he's doing very well. For the first time, I also think, the people on the other side of the political divide really didn't know whom they were facing, because there was a lot of conjecture that Raila might not run. If Raila is not running, so what happens? Where do we go with this? He has declared that he's running. So as we speak about the 58th Jamhuri Day, at least now we have got two leading presidential candidates having clearly declared that they are running. Now we can consign the other aspirants or contestants to exactly the right place where they're supposed to be, because initially the word was probably they will be the other side will organize and come up with a surprise candidate like Moisa Kitui. It will come up probably with Musalia Mudavadi. It will come up probably with as in there were so many proposals. But now we have got Raila on the other side. All of us, of course, knew that wasn't so much of something that we didn't expect. And then the president does what he did the other day. He comes in, but of course I'm used to the president, of course, breaking protocol. That is him. The president and order are not friends. He looks like he was created just before the beginning happened. Like when the Bible says that in the beginning there was no order, but only the Spirit of God was moving. He's a man who loves chaos. I think he's a serious believer in the chaos theory. So he once in a while loves to destabilize. And I think he enjoys to see what he's done. Unaona ule mtu mwenye anapenda kuchokoza vitu alafu anakaa kando anaangalia kama hiyo nini imeenda namna gani. So you see, clearly, of course, they had organized with the former Prime Minister, Right Honorable Raila Odinga, that you will come to speak in. And of course, the message they had was very, very clear. They wanted to pass a message about land grabbing. And of course, it's casting a lot of aspersions because it's 2 kilometers from Weston to Uhuru Gardens. Of course, historically, that whole land was one parcel. But then there was a road that went in. And there is a high school there. No one talks about a high school. There is an airport there. There is a prison there. There is AMREF. There is a school. But one man decided that properties that are 2 kilometers away, that was only his reference point to actually bring out. Of course, there is a point he wanted to say. And having known the state very well, because as a consultant and a technical person, as in I am a government technician. When I talk about a government technician, as in I teach government, I teach administration, I work on policy. As in, mimi ni fundi wa serikali, yule mtu anafanya serikali anafanya kazi. In media world, you'll talk about a sub-editor being a word technician. So in matters governance, I am literally, let me just say, I am a governance technician. So knowing exactly how it works, if you looked at the paper that day on Sunday, there was in the gossip column that somebody had grabbed Uhuru Garden. Of course, it's a lie. There is no evidence to back up that. But in politics, it's always said, perceptions inform reality. So he then gives him a through pass. But for me, I think the president was trying to apologize for having not come for the Azimio la Umoja. That was his way of kurudisha mkono sikukuwa. So then anamrudisha mkono kwa so that it feels like tuko pamoja. Like when you let somebody down, like I didn't show up for MESHACK's birthday. So then tukikutana taona mwambia, najua leo ulikuwa unataka kukula chips lakini sasa wacha nikununulie pizza. So that is what the president was trying to do. But largely I love the country where we are. The state of the nation for me is very encouraging. We should not be very much worried because again there is this group of people who love to sell fear. And I also love that the other side of the political divide has decided that we talk about history. I think we should not run away from talking about history. You know why? Because there are a lot of skeletons in history that they are not talking about. When, for example, they talk about us having been at the same level with the Asian tigers, who are in charge at that particular time? What did they do? the same mindset that ensured that we did not catch up with the Asian tigers is the same mindset they're bringing today. So it's good that we also talk about that history from a place where we flip. Okay. One time too many history is actually written by the victors. The good thing about the history, as we want to get around here, because you see a lot of revisionism when it comes to how a number of people are addressing history. There's a lot of revisionism. Okay. And I think so we have set this thing properly. Of course, I have seen UD on the other side argue that these people should talk about their agenda. It is okay, UD is talking about the agenda, but I also hope that ODM on the other side does not want to use history as their agenda going forward, because as it is, you cannot drive a car using the rear mirror. Okay. We cannot travel forward using the rear mirror. We only check back, but then we have to use the windscreen. History is important. It's important to know where you've come from, because if you don't know where you've come from, you most likely don't know where you are. And if you don't know where you are, you don't know where you are going. But then the overarching vision should be where we are going, of course, informed by history. Okay. When you go to school, all of you have gone to school, you realize that normally you're told there are two ways of studying. Number one, you study by acquiring old knowledge. And number two, you study by producing new knowledge. That's why, like, when you're doing your bachelor's degree, you simply are acquiring old knowledge. A lot of times, the master's degree then prepares you for production of new knowledge. And then when you're doing your PhD, you are actually producing new knowledge. Those are the two, at least, major ways of looking at how you study and how you acquire knowledge. That you either get old knowledge. So we know where we've come from, unless you are just born yesterday. So the state of the nation for me is quite a mixed up ball of so many things that we have got some things that are working, others that are not working, so that we should not be obsessed with politics without necessarily looking at the 2 million people that until COVID showed up were in stable employment, for example. Those people had people who depended on them. It is something we need to talk about. Parliament needs to prioritize, have a stimulus package that takes care of some of this situation. Okay. So that we also do not, sometimes in this country we forget completely. Once we come to elections, we forget what is happening. And we did the same mistake in 2008 and 2007, and with the underlying issues. Sometimes people fight not because you have actually angered. Mtu ako na issues zake. Ametoa stress kwa nyumba na hizo vitu zingine zote, wamepigana na bibi yake, wanasumbuana na bwana yake huko kwingine. So hapa kwa ofisi mkikosana kidogo, anakurushia maji. And then the whole office is fighting, and people will think that you are the one who started problems, when essentially it is something that is underlying. So I really wish that the president and the people in leadership today do not completely forget about the situation of the country as it were. It's not good. You see kids speaking. By the way, some of those kids burning school, let's not just say the kids are bad-mannered. They're also carrying trauma from home. Mzazi amengangana amekulipia fees, probably hujakuja na nini mzuri, umetokana umeambiwa you will not amount to anything, unaenda shule pia ukisoma zina bounce kwa hii masikio, zinaruka huku juu, zikipita zikienda, tamu haiishi na hizo vitu zingine zote. So many of these things are actually symptomatic of the things that are happening. So lest we forget about what is happening and just focus on politics alone, let us also be sensitive. We still tusike pesa yote kwa campaign. Let us try and also help the economy. When the economy is doing well, people can actually laugh, people can actually be forgiving, people can be easy, and things can move forward.
Okay, all right. 50 years post-independence, 58 years post-independence, ODEDE.
Yes. Maliba has tried to drag me into some politics, which I will avoid completely. He is trying to touch on things that should evoke emotions.
What are you running away from?
I'm not going to go.
What is that you are running away from?
I'm going to analyze the state of the nation on my own. But let me begin here, Jared. Number one, I think 4 things are key and important to me on the state of the nation today. Number one, I would seriously say that we stayed under colony longer than we are penning down. We are talking about 58 years of independence. But I think if we ever have been independent, it has been less than those 58 years. The whites didn't just leave us completely from all corners and say, be independent. because we stayed under the higher education system for long, which was teaching what they wanted us to be. So even though their presence physically was not here, they were not occupying government positions, but we were still under colony one way or another, because they left systems, but we didn't tamper with that system at all. So for me, 58 is just for the records, so that we might know that this is the longest we have been. But in reality, at some point, even now as we speak, I think there are still larger component of what Africa is that is not really Africa, including religion. Religion is still under colony until today, but it is religion where we become, where we can't ask questions. You know, when it comes to governance, you can actually ask questions and say, this is not possible, we cannot do this. We are self-ruling country. But when it comes to religion, who have you seen asking questions? Religion, we are told, this is what God wants. This is how it is. And so up to now, I am still sure we in the religion as it was sold, we don't even know the space of Africa in that religion. What we are told, this is it. This is it. The people who came, the missionaries who came, did not. If you go to your Bible, you are told, people like Paul are writing and are saying, to the Jews I became a Jew, to the Romans I became a Roman. But to Africans, did they try to become African? They detoxed Africa from being African first, so that you can approach God. So I still believe there are many components that are still under colony until today. Even though together to celebrate tunasema 58 years of self-rule. That is number one. So
not yet
if you ask me, there are still very many components that is not us. Okay. We were given and we picked with no question, and we are tunaiendeleza hivyo. So those 50 years, 8 years, tukiangalia vizuri, we will find maybe 8 years we have been independent. Maybe 50 years we were still being under colony, but not physically, by having the presence of whites here. Because our education system still borrows a lot from what Wazungu left to us. We have never sat down and say, let's now abandon this and come up with our own things. That is one. Even when we are making the constitution, we are still largely borrowing. And I think those are still, because those people sat down and they didn't borrow from elsewhere. They said, this is what will work for us as America. This is what will work for us as England. But when we are on the table making constitution, we keep referring. In America, they do it like this, and then we are going to borrow that we are putting in our constitution. So, I feel like those 58 years might not be 58 years. The second thing, we are only safe because of the geographical location where we are. If we were to be somewhere in the Central Europe, we would know we are really, really badly off. But because we are in Africa, next to Tanzania, Uganda, Burundi, Rwanda, we are safe. We are good. State of the nation, we are 70%. We are good. We are somewhere better. If we go to the other side, if we were placed in between those other people, it would be really, really bad. But because of where we are, I think we don't, because we can complain in Kenya, but then you go to Burundi, you start looking at things, you're like, I want to go back to Kenya. Kenya, my motherland. You suddenly feel like, I love Kenya. I want to be there. What is this? You look at the way things are in Tanzania and a few countries around you. And Maliba was just coming from the other side. You really feel like Kenya is much, much better until you are on the other side. And then the third thing, again, how democracy was sold to us. We are talking about 58 years of independence, so we are basically trying to say our democracy has grown and our democracy has supported service delivery to the people and things like that. Yes, in one way or the other, like I said, where we are, it is the democracy that is working. But again, the way that democracy was sold to us. Gerard, sometimes I pause and listen and think about this. How is it possible that the Britons who sold to us democracy, are still having the Queen. Yeah? And basically the Queen, I mean, how everything runs there. There is a certain tier of democracy, and then the uppermost is non-negotiable. That one is for the Queen and the family. Sisi, they want our democracy at the uppermost than they want it down here, if you ask them. They are concerned of how we get our democracy at the top than they are. The Britons are not concerned on our election at the representation level. At your MCA was not elected properly. Does that concern the Britons? Can they pause 1 minute and even ask, your MP was not elected with a certain parameters of democracy? They are only concerned if your president was elected with all the parameters waliweka for democracy. That's the only concern. And I think that makes it a little bit ish how they sold to us the democracy. Was not actually supposed to make us grow. It was supposed to serve their own interest. And that is why until now, you cannot be sure where the Europeans and Americans, the whites generally, stand on matters developing democracy in Africa. I think what they are teaching us are what basically at the end of the day have some interest for them. Look at the civil society. For a long time they have, I come from civil society myself. For a long time they have supported civil society to do their stuff. Right now we have things like COVID. And you've never seen civil society coming out to even organize how people will get vaccines. But if the vaccines were not here, somebody would have already supported civil society to organize demonstrations to the government. Mbona hamjatupatia chanjo? Mbona hatuna COVID vaccines? Now COVID vaccine is all over the country. And people are not going to get vaccinated. And civil society are not seeing that. Or somebody who funds civil society does not see that.
They don't have a budget for that.
They don't probably they don't have a budget for that. So in short, Gerard, what I'm trying to say is, I think it is time we start thinking as Africa on our own. Although we love the kind of support they are giving us, but somehow we need to really think about how, because if we start thinking on our own, without so much influence, then it wouldn't matter to me that Maliba is in the other party, I'm in this party. We will be looking, focus will be Africa, and focus will be Kenya, and focus will be the people, and how to develop. Then lastly, is the president a statesman? I think Maliba wanted to drag me into that. And I think, yes, the president has demonstrated some statesmanship. And Gerard, if you can remember, and I know Maliba can remember this very well, there was a time the president could go on the media and tell some people, nyinyi mezeni mate, sisi tuko sawa. That is not statesman by any standards. Until now that president can say, even though he gets angry, but he can't tell people mwameze mate wao wanakula nyama.
But he's doing the same.
He's not doing the same.
Maybe he's not telling different people.
He's actually, number one, what MESHACK has chosen selective amnesia here, in that he does not want to just say that the president has told other people. You know, when he says that nyinyi mnakimbia mnachoka na mwingine alafu mzee atakuja wapite, mimi nikwambia watu mtameza mate.
No, the president is advising his friends that this is how to do it. But what I want to say is, I don't think president is the best guy until now. He is not, but his effort to try and become better can be seen. The only difference between him and his deputy is one thing. He has accepted that, yes, we have a problem. There was a problem, there is still a problem. How do we sit on the table and go about it? The deputy still feels like there has never been problem and there will never be. The only problem is Raila Odinga.
That's not true.
That's what
that's not
he
true.
says.
But you see,
perception
will be. Sorry, MESHACK.
Yeah.
We all choose the point from which we see things. It's perception. It could be your bias. It could be a prejudice. It could even be your privilege. MESHACK sits from a place of privilege where he thinks that when somebody else gives a contrary opinion, he is opposed to what he is actually saying. We can actually disagree without being disagreeable. I think the Deputy President has said enough times that our problems, when he speaks about our problems, he's already pointing at where problems are. He already accepts that we have got problems. He only does not agree in the manner in which the other side is prescribing to go about it. For example, you cannot build unity by excluding others. That's a fact. Because if you're going to actually exclude others, we're talking about now, this is a national project. Let's talk about a national rebuilding project, for example. There's a neighboring country I've been working for a while, and national rebuilding and reconstruction is actually a big issue. And one of those challenges is actually, how do you bring everybody on the table? So, the Deputy President agrees we have got problems. But all of us do not agree probably on the veracity, on the weight, and the approach. So he is not a denier that we are a denier of the problems we have. The problem we have, and for me I think is actually a very healthy problem, is the how. If we do not agree that we have, all of us don't see the problems, then there's a problem. But we all agree that we have got problems. The challenge is the how, which is actually for
Maliba,
me,
you may remember at the Bomas of Kenya, the president was telling his deputy there that I consulted with him. He even helped me identify some of these wases who went around to collect views. How was he excluded? Because you are trying to portray a picture that he has been excluded, and that is why.
The problem with MESHACK is that even him being a guy from Homa Bay, sometimes a few things in English get over his head. I just need to remind MESHACK, number one, that consultation is not necessarily concurrence.
Yes.
So when somebody says that I consulted, but if I pass by and tell you, by the way, what do you think about this woman I want to marry?
At least you have told me you want to marry a certain woman.
You could actually tell me. So
we could actually begin from there that you have capacity to tell me the woman you want to marry.
So the point is this.
Yes.
If mtu akikuuliza tu apitie hapa kwingine, as in Bitok, whom can you have next year? Okay, you can have MESHACK, you can have all those other people and everybody else. You have not necessarily agreed to whatever he said. So that does not stop you to come next year and tell whoever was proposing that you told me this, but I didn't like the how you went about it. So
that means
consultation is not concurrence.
It's not agreement.
And just because somebody has consulted you, you are not there for then imprisoned.
Thank you.
Being into a place where you have to agree to everything else. Otherwise, we are going to be.
Thank you. At least you are agreeing that you are already in the picture of what is happening. But when you say, how do you build a national consensus or a nationalism by excluding? Excluding just means the guy is nowhere, has nothing to do with what is happening.
By the way, I don't know, as in MESHACK.
Yes.
You look like my friend Bill, though you are also my friend for a very long time. You know the Bill I'm talking about. And then incidentally, okay, Migori and Homa Bay are closer, so all of you guys are neighbors. But my point is this, that the Building Bridges initiative was built as an attempt at bringing Kenya together.
Yes.
Doing away with politics of hatred, doing away with politics of bloodshed, doing away with all those things that were listed there. A number of us, including William, actually agrees that the handshake was necessary at that particular point. How the handshake metamorphosed into building bridges, and how building bridges quickly metamorphosed into 2022, and specifically having identified a successor, is what people are disputing. We are a democracy and not a monarchy. We can therefore not have, but the road to hell is dotted with good intentions.
The road to hell?
Yes, the road to hell is actually dotted with good intentions. So the handshake was good, of course, we agree. We needed to actually settle down as a country and try to work. the then Building Bridges initiative following up the handshake were a few issues that were to be followed up.
Yes.
But then how that thing then ends up being summarized into one thing, pushing somebody into power by all means, whether you like it or not. And by that, they're telling us, we've gone back to the days of Sharif Nasir. Wapende wasipende. You know, that's what Kenyans are being told everywhere.
Yes.
Wapende wasipende, this is the way to go. You know, we are a democracy. I just need to repeat that repeatedly. That we are a democracy. Sisi sio shamba ya babu ya mtu ama ya baba ya mtu.
Arnold,
he decides who comes to work there.
There is part of this that you're I don't know whether you're ignoring it or deliberately you're trying to put it aside. When this handshake came and you're saying everyone agreed that it is necessary, then the two gentlemen said, this, when we sat down, these are the 10 things we, the two of us, feel like has been a problem. And then they subjected that to the people. And so they said, these 14 old men will be moving around the country and asking you how you think we can deal with these 10 particular things. Number one, if we agreed with those 10 things, we could say yes. If we didn't agree with those 10 things, we could add more other things they didn't list in those 10 things. But what did the deputy president do and his team? They said, actually, they started rubbishing it from there, saying this is an non-starter and nothing. They didn't even want to be part of those conversations at all, only to the end of it, coming to now purport that they are giving their solution. They didn't agree with this, they didn't agree with. Was it not right, Arnold, that when these people were going around, everybody went, the KICC, the LICO, everybody went, including civil society, everybody compiled their document and presented and said, this is how we think these things should be dealt with. But I think we need to move away from that, because now even the BBI is not there anymore. What we
President
have,
has said it's not dead, it's coming back.
Sisi tuko na azimio la umoja, and we are trying to bring the country
Someone is asking, Geoffrey Rogg is asking, what if Uhuru lied that involved Ruto? Ruto pointed out that the president is lying.
Probably we can actually go back and just respond to what MESHACK is. Number one, just knowing the way is not enough. You must know the way and go the way, right?
Yes, yes.
And probably go the way at the right time, in the right manner. So, the way BBI was actually handled, honestly, was very exclusive in nature. People were receiving invites. Sometimes they could actually advise, like they use the provincial administration. I'm using the word provincial administration deliberately because we no longer have that. But of course, the mentality and the thinking, just the way you've said that colonialism never left. Colonizers didn't leave. They left their system in place. So the provincial system still, once in a while, rears its ugly head. Once in a while, it shows up. So these guys showed up and decided to pick who can actually come in. We had issues that we wanted addressed. They could listen to you and just ignore that when they write the report, it didn't show up. When you go back to BBI, and I think we have flogged that horse for a very long time. We don't need even to go back to flogging that horse. So you look at BBI and you realize that over 80% of those issues there did not need a referendum. That is agreeable to literally to everybody else. A number of those issues can simply be done in parliament.
Yes, yes.
Nothing has stopped. The court did not stop the president and his government, for example, and his brother Raila from moving forward, whipping their soldiers into ensuring that a number of those things that were to be taken care of through ordinary legislation, policy, and administrative action have been worked on. In fact, some of those things have found their way to parliament and they've been defeated. Things like HELB, for example. So that then goes to what we actually suspected all along, that there was the BBI and then the BBI in BBI. So the BBI was about somebody else. And I said this yesterday somewhere, that realistically, if you look at Uhuru Kenyatta, he has done quite substantive work for the country. But there is a signature in everything he has done. What he has done is that he has ensured that he creates Kenya in his own image. You know, when we write the Constitution 2010, probably that's where MESHACK was talking about 13 years of where we have been independent. I think he is a child of the Constitution 2010, and he believes he doesn't trust anything behind there. But you look at at how Uhuru has actually worked in the last 9 years and everything. He wants to erase those who came before him and ensure that after him, they will only point to him. As in for him, there was none before him and there should be none after him. That in itself is an attempt at creating a cult. It's an attempt at creating a nation that is beholden to one man and a nation that the sovereignty, when you talk about the constitution, the preamble talking about we the people. So everything the president has done, as in he even forgot about Vision 2030 and everything else is about him. Anywhere where, like for example, when Jubilee was working and it looked like Jubilee is taking the glory, when you talk about the Jubilee, he actually had to run away so that it looks like he was the one in charge on the other side. He's now the one in charge on this other side. With all that he has done, the president is obsessed in making the nation in his own image. And why would he be so interested in making the nation in his own image when he is not God? It is so simple that he has got post-presidential ambitions. Okay. When MESHACK talks about the colonizers not having been left, Uhuru is trying to Uhurunize Kenya so that Uhurunization continues way after he has left this country. Okay.
Is it?
That this country, he can go back and open his house because he's the architect of this place. He will then be ruling over us even in his retirement. That he will continue pulling levers even in his own in his own grave. That even if he were to die in the next 50 or 100 years, he will still, the way he's engineering this he's actually ni kama shamba yake, anatengeneza kama biashara yake. The designs and everything else remain around that. So this idea of Uhurunizing Kenya is what we are questioning.
But Arnold,
this obsession with creating Kenya in his own image is what we have got a problem with. Okay. Because he has got a plan for us that we have not been consulted and we do not know. We think that particular plan is evil. It is not for us. It has nothing to do with the future of us and our children. But for him, his interests, his people and his friends and whatever people he's working for, it is not for us. And that is what we want to reject. This man whom came to power through democracy, the power of a people refusing imperialism, when people refuse to be lorded over, he wants now to lord over us. We must actually ask him what the children of Israel asked Moses at some point. Who appointed you a judge over us? We need to ask him who appointed him, the architect and the lord over our fate, especially where it comes to our choice. And that is what I'm actually challenging MESHACK to actually just come out and say that here the president he's crossing a bridge too far.
I don't think
he's
so.
Simply trying to manage a succession. By the way, if Kibaki had managed his succession the way Uhuru is trying to do it,
he did.
Mudavadi would be the president. All of us know that. Because I don't want to talk about the agency, the government agency that formed the UDF. The government agency whose budget was big. I don't want to mention it here because I don't want problems for you after I've left.
No, Maliba. The government may have formed those things you're talking about.
I want to wonder, even as you come in, ODEDE, what if the engineering was on the other end? What if the president was engineering succession on the opposite side of politics?
Yeah, it would still happen.
Okay.
But I think it is a fallacy to say that Kibaki did not manage his succession. Okay. Probably the difference between Uhuru and Kibaki is that Uhuru is being a little too open. Kibaki was more secretive around succession of himself, his own succession, because we know how Uhuru was brought closer by Kibaki, including some of the appointments. We now know, and it has been said, that people like Uhuru are the ones who brought the likes of Njeru Githai to appointments at the tail end of Kibaki's whatever. We had General Karangi himself saying, I can't salute Raila Odinga, meaning they were working on who he could salute while he was the head of military and all that. Where did he say that? He said that.
Where?
It is on record.
Is he still the CDF?
No, he is not.
Now you see?
He said while he was there on that seat. And we know how Uhuru was brought. It is just that the government agencies would simply go and create UDF and put a decoy, Mudavadi as a decoy, knowing very well that unamwelekeza mpaka pale and yawachane na Raila because his small vote would add to Raila. So we have to create a faction there, push him to the end, make him believe that he is the next of kin to Kibaki, and then to kosane pale pale mbele, and then he goes alone. Hizo ni kama tumechop from Raila's votes tukamwaga kwa river, has not been counted, and we know how all that was working. So the only thing I want Maliba to accept that there has been 2 terms for Uhuru, and we know there was never anything beautiful about first term, even though some people would still think, for me, I think the projects were the same, and the idea is still the same. The only difference is how the projects of the first term was done, Gerard. Hapo ndio niko na shida. How the first term projects were done. The whole thing might be true, what Maliba is talking about. But that is not my biggest concern right now. The concern is when they did the first project. For example, Maliba, when they did the railways from Mombasa coming to Nairobi, we know how it was inflated and overpriced and everything. And that is how the whole term of 5 years were doing projects. The projects in themselves were good, meant well for the country. But how people made them cash cow, every project was to be 10 times what its price should be. That is not how the second term projects have been. They have not been inflated the same way.
Can you mention a few of those second projects?
We know the railway is going to Kisumu, the one going to
at what cost?
The one going to Nanyuki, and how they have been done with very, very little. If it were done in the first...
I want you to mention the figures.
No, you know.
Because the inflation has no, or rather the inflating of costs has not changed. Look at the expressway. It's been done under this particular... or rather
yes.
But let's just say that initially Jubilee used to be...
And it is not done, it is not done by taxpayers.
Well, we are paying 67 billion. Who is paying?
It is public-private partnerships.
But we are footing the bill on the other side. It's still taxpayers' money. And when we talk about whatever you're talking about, the 67 billion, actually, I think it would, by the end, the completion, it will be about 80 billion because I think they've asked for an extra 7 billion shillings. It's still so much over the top. You saw when Wetangula spoke about it, that by the time it came to the cabinet, it was about 22 billion. Honestly, 10 years down the line, it cannot have tripled.
300%.
So I think MESHACK is trying to hang on straws here.
Not even hanging.
The cost of doing projects under the Jubilee administration, honestly, has been exorbitant. Whether it is Jubilee A or Jubilee B. Initially, Jubilee used to be two arms, where URP was concerned and TNA. And then later on, of course, when the handshake came in, Jubilee became Jubilee A, B, and C, where A was the TNA arm that is led by the president, then B was the URP side led by the deputy president, and now C became the ODM, the other guys who came through the window.
ODM is not part of Jubilee.
ODM is actually part and parcel of this particular government. They cannot run away because Raila is honestly de facto a co-president because his brother is consulting him on everything else. It is his advice and the president is talking about. The president would rather not call a cabinet meeting but go and see his brother to give him his advice. So Raila is actually
because it's working.
Because Raila has actually now, if it's working, then Raila has become the cabinet because that is the apex of the advisory council of the country. That one man is advising another man. In everything else. He has become the deputy president, he's become the cabinet, he's become everything. They are holding hands and doing everything, which is not bad. It is good for them to do whatever they are doing that way. But then what does that speak to our constitution? The constitution created institutions. We have got informal institutions like Raila. Raila has become an informal institution. He's encroaching on the space of the cabinet. He's encroaching on the space of the deputy president. He's encroaching on the space of the president himself. He therefore cannot run away and say that the cost and everything that is happening, all of a sudden the things that he's actually talking about as having been exorbitant, Raila now says they are okay. The same Raila that said that the railway had been overpriced now says it's okay. Everything.
No, Raila has never said the railways from Mombasa to Nairobi is okay.
Everything.
He says it until today it was overpriced.
He says that the president has actually done very good work during his watch on duty. So it means that everything, so long as now he accepts it. You know, sometimes I actually see Raila and he behaves like the youth. among ourselves. We have been in the youth sector with you. We've worked together for a very long time. For a lot of young people, if they are not in a project, it is bad. When they join it, it becomes good. So Raila behaves like a lot of us, especially in the youth sector.
No, Maliba, you can remember very well at that time when he advised the government to use the land that is there already. The Jubilee decided to buy a new land, and even now you can see the old rail on the other side and a new one for the SGR. Why was that being done?
Have you found out why?
When Raila was now advising the president, like you are saying, we went to renovate the same line. We didn't buy another land going to Nanyuki and going to Kisumu.
Look at this.
Why was this being bought?
That is a renovation, and here we were building a new railway.
We could uproot that and build on the same land.
We could not uproot, because, MESHACK actually just exhibits one thing, that he hasn't even taken time to go back and realize the challenge the government had at that particular time. We had commitments and concessions with the Rift Valley Railway at that particular time. We already had committed that railway, and it was already committed in other concessions. We could not uproot it.
Which only was committed from Mombasa to Nairobi and not on this other side.
On this other side, we are renovating the same
They are not doing an SGR.
We are not
it's the same MGR.
It's not an SGR.
So we could actually do the same on this other side.
MESHACK. So anyway, going back to the point that we were talking about is this, that I sit at a place where I feel like sometimes we are so much in love with coming up with conventions and policies that are so strange as a country, especially when it comes to practice. That a sitting president has abandoned his party and he has gone to another party and he's quoting somebody in an opposition party and he is now supporting that. As in, those things don't happen normally.
Maliba, he did that even when he was opposition leader. I mean, why are you forgetting quickly? And you all told us, ni Mungu. Huyu ni Mungu ametupatia. We are just accepting.
Which one?
He abandoned his party while he was in opposition and joined the president. You remember?
That's what I'm telling you.
You remember? So abandoning anything is not a new thing.
You remember when Michael Joseph that Kenyans have got peculiar habits. It's not just in how we make calls. Even how we practice our politics. It's just literally strange. That, guys, I am competing against you. We are ideologically different.
Yes.
But in the lie of unity, I show up in your... when did you see Trump going to the Democratic Convention, the DNC? When did you see Obama cross over and go to McCain's RNC? It doesn't happen that way. We are just a people who come up with very funny things. That now the opposition leader has joined the government, that he has been criticizing throughout. And immediately he joined government, everything that government did becomes good. I think it is time, by the way, to actually just tell this generation of politicians to actually exit. Because I think they have, their usefulness is actually out.
All right. Okay, let's talk about Azimio. That happened on Friday. What was Azimio? What is the vision behind Azimio la Umoja in Kasarani that happened the other day? I saw mulinyorosha mama mwingine hapa anaitwa Maua. ODEDE.
Huyo mama hakunyorosha.
I think
that lady might have been just looking forward to something like that, so that it can trend. In Kenya we look for viewership.
Are you saying that she was cloud chasing?
Somehow.
That is unfortunate.
Did you, Gerard or me, see Akinyoroshwa? We only saw her protesting.
The people who are there have not denied.
No, we only saw her protesting.
The men in black have not denied.
And they have not
has
confirmed.
Not denied.
ODM just apologized because we saw a clip.
Do you apologize for, if you're taking responsibility? That is accountability. If ODM is taking accountability,
yes.
Who are you to actually correct ODM?
No, it is just ODM have just said if such a thing happened, we are very sorry, because nobody,
it's not
you,
conditional.
Me, or ODM chairman or Sifuna, did not see a clip anywhere where he is being harassed. We only saw a clip where she is protesting.
MESHACK, I just want to challenge you that we saw a number of our friends being part and parcel of the men in black, right? People known to both of us.
Who?
Benson Musungu, for example. Quite a number of them. We know them. Can you call them so that they deny? They were there on the ground.
I saw Benson Musungu talking
Benson Musungu
to the lady.
These days is doing men in black.
No.
That was running for MP.
No, I saw Musungu talking to the lady and asking her to calm down. Aingie kwa uwanja. I believe, Maliba, you know how these things works. somehow something was being targeted. Just like the other day, DP went to throw stone on himself in Kisumu to come and campaign with that in Muranga.
DP threw stones on himself and
to
he
come
stood
and,
there.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
Stood where?
If you said he threw stones at himself.
Yes.
Then actually he's a magician. He can actually stone himself and stand there and then address.
Yeah, and come and use it in Muranga for campaign. Because Maliba, you and I, again, you say we know many things together. Do you know that people of Kondele do not fight for 1 second and calm down all over and everything is okay?
That is
the
not
people
true.
Of Kondele,
that
if
is not
they,
true.
you know the people of Kondele will fight from morning, evening, usiku, the next day, even if it is 1 year, as long as they don't want you there. How could DP have a meeting na seme kila kitu amalize mpaka aseme watu wa Kondele Mungu awabariki asanteni sana aingie kwa gari ndio mtu ndio stones are being thrown. That is a self-throwing stone.
Let me tell you.
Maliba, we know people of Kondele and they would not even allow him to have a meeting in Kisumu the previous day, enjoying the company and everything, only to
anyway,
it is
MESHACK,
not possible.
Tell us about Azimio la Umoja. You are moved away.
And it is coming to be used.
When did you get to Kondele?
Can I have my last point?
It is Maliba who is pushing me there.
This is the issue. MESHACK is a sympathizer of violence, and it is a sad thing. MESHACK is actually a sympathizer of the people who instigate political violence, because he's actually trying to make it look like it is okay and it is calm for people to do the bad manners in politics that people do, that we actually have been chimering, and he actually comes here and explains it to actually try and make the Wamaua incident to try and actually base it down is unfair. To actually also try and make a joke of what happened in Kondele on that particular day is only that the DP stood his ground. He stood his ground and said no. So people made noise and whatever. And MESHACK knows, like the other day when there was Azimio, talking about Azimio, by the way, there was insecurity on Thika Road the whole evening. People were robbed. People were cut with all those things. I know he knows, he might even know the people who did that.
What are you saying?
On Thika Road, on the evening of Azimio la Umoja, people were robbed. There was insecurity. Cars were, the side mirrors were broken. People were robbed. Watu walikuwa nasukumu wanatoka kwa pikipiki. It's out there. But somehow, no one even addressed that. Somehow, even the government found ways of covering up for that. But I'll tell you, if that had happened in Eldoret, if that had happened in Kakamega, it would make news. But somehow, because it was related to Azimio and people who are friendly to the Azimio process, we covered it up. Of course, we will say that there were goons out there on their own. There were people who took advantage of that, because sometimes such incidences happen even when we have a concert, for example. So, MESHACK, what happened in Kisumu, especially in Kondele, was wrong. What happened to Maua, it was wrong. Even if it happened to Raila in Eldoret, we will still call it wrong. Let us call wrong for what it is when it happens. Otherwise, if we explain these things, then we are giving the perpetrators room and the justification to do these things. This one is on a serious note, by the way. Politics aside.
Everything is on a serious note.
MESHACK is actually joking when he actually tries to rationalize.
I'm not joking. I'm not joking.
Do you have proof that William Ruto threw stones to himself?
Yes.
Please present the facts here.
Because we know how the people of Kondele usually fight.
We know it's not evidence.
Yeah, we know how they usually fight.
Are you a commander
in the Kondele forces? Here, Maliba.
Are you the commander in Kondele forces?
And then,
are you the author of the military?
We can put 1 + 1 together. The next day, the DP is using that to campaign in Mount Kenya.
No.
Let's talk about Azimio.
CCC watu wa kurusha mawe. Sijuzi ule jamaa.
MESHACK does not talk about Azimio.
Wait, does William...
Let's talk about Azimio.
The reason why MESHACK does not talk about Azimio is
please, let's talk about Azimio.
It is Maliba who is dragging me out of Azimio.
He has dragged you out of it. Now, I'm dragging you back. I'm dragging you back to Azimio. I'm dragging you back to Azimio.
No, you don't want me to put this
welcome back to Azimio.
Go back to Azimio.
Alright, let's tell us about Azimio.
You are running away from Azimio.
No.
Tell us about Azimio.
Azimio was a great thing. Azimio was a great thing. And just one thing about Wamaua, for example. The way people walk with their Waheshimiwa, I don't know what exactly happened, because I'm telling you this, and I know this is what you also know. We only saw the lady protesting that amekuwa manhandled at the gate.
So it's not
The
true.
VIP.
We should trust her.
No, we should trust up to that point that we
the
saw
people
her
on the ground
protesting.
have not denied.
I don't know
The
the
victim
people.
has not denied. The party ODM that organized the whole event has not denied.
Wait.
As an outsider here, MESHACK, you are here denying.
She said she has been
You
manhandled.
know, even Thomas the apostle, when he said he couldn't believe in Jesus, he said until nishike hapo ndani. Unataka ushike kwa vidonda za wamaua ndio ujue kweli alikuwa mzano.
Maliba,
Let me look for the video.
When Joya was beaten,
It must be on video.
we saw Joya being beaten
this
and
man
all
is a-
that.
this man is a
when Men
sadist.
in Black,
He wants to see Men in
Maliba,
Black
wait,
handling
wait.
Okay, guys. All right.
When Men in
Order.
Black were destroying things
Order.
in Kasarani in those days,
Was everything
we
captured?
we saw them doing that. But here we saw the lady protesting. We believe her. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, how did this happen? Maybe her security did not do the right thing. Because Arnold, do you think those people are just mad? They could see this is Mheshimiwa wa Maua and then just start manhandling.
They manhandled her because according to them and what she said, and no one has actually denied, is that they claimed she was a Tanga MP who had shown up. So first thing is that they realized she was a member of parliament. And number two, that they took initiative and associated her with the Tanga. And for the mere reason that probably they thought she was a Tanga person, they decided to teach her a little fear of God, which is wrong. And we know that is the modus operandi for those guys.
That is where you go wrong. That is why
You
walk
have
like
been
a duck.
denying.
You walk
You
like
have
a
been
duck
denying.
and speak
By the
like
way,
a duck.
I'm actually,
the same way.
I have actually.
The same
have you
way
looked at the video?
you are using this. It is
I've seen the
always
video.
no. It is always being
Vito,
used.
have you looked at the video?
Yes.
I'm actually thinking. I've just looked at the video and I've realized that MESHACK was one of those men in black.
Arnold.
Wait. MESHACK.
MESHACK was one of the men in black.
No, MESHACK was not there.
This is what I am protesting all the time.
Okay.
That when an incident like that happens, then we quickly, people like Arnold and William Ruto quickly say it is their way. It is William who keeps telling
But you
people,
have told us it's the way of Kondele.
It is William and Arnold and the company who
Can a
keeps...
leopard
Wait,
change its spots?
If a leopard
let MESHACK
cannot
speak.
change, then I will tell you the violence that is in Rift Valley.
Which one
will
is-
never
which one?
change.
Raila
Then
was
I
in
will
Rift
tell
Valley.
you. Then I will tell you.
Raila was in Eldoret.
Order.
Who stoned
Order,
William?
guys.
Who stoned Raila?
Wait.
When Raila
Wait.
was in Eldoret, Oscar Sudi, none other, no less than Oscar Sudi himself, organized for people to receive.
So who threw stones at Raila in Githurai?
Tell us.
Now hapa
Tell us, you know.
Maliba who
You
knows
know-
all now
you-
doesn't know.
you know the
And
people
we
who
saw-
stone.
And we
You know
saw
the people who fight.
and we
Guys,
saw Maura and the company.
guys, order,
This is what
guys.
I will protest all the time.
you guys have
That
refused
when
to
it
tell me about
happens-
Azimio.
Wait,
I will talk about
Gerard.
Azimio
That
because-
when it happens on the
MESHACK,
other
okay.
side, it is an individual or it is a group. But when it happens everywhere, the likes of Maliba and William will go to the media and say it is their way, because we have heard William saying that is they uproot railways. If they are not uprooting railways, they are throwing stones. That is making a whole community look bad, and Maliba, we will not accept this, because we know how things have happened even in some other places, in some other parts of the country, and we are not going to the press to condemn the whole community. That is their way, and that is what you sit here keep saying. That is their mode of operandi. Who are you referring to their mode of operandi?
Can I talk
That
about
is
Azimio la Umoja?
unacceptable.
He has finished his Azimio la Umoja. I
No,
want to
we
talk
have
about
not
Azimio.
finished
Let
on
him
this.
finish on what he has.
Gerard,
Let's finish
if this
Azimio.
is what the show
Wait,
is all about,
Arnold,
tell us.
All right, Arnold,
Tell
all
us if that is what the show is all about, because I know
I want
Maliba
you. I've
enjoys
told you
this.
to talk about Azimio.
Yes.
You've not talked about it. Please tell me
Azimio.
us
So
about
can
Azimio.
you apologize that
No.
this is
I
not?
want you to apologize to Amaua
We
for
have
saying that she
wait,
wasn't beaten.
Maliba. We
Hold
have
it.
seen
Arnold.
chaos in Muranga,
Arnold.
or we haven't. Was Raila there? At William
You
Ruto's
have denied,
thing,
you have
wait,
denied.
we have seen chaos.
You have denied
in
that
Nyeri.
Wamaua was not
we have-
manhandled.
Guys,
wait.
order.
We have seen chaos in Nyeri.
Order,
Did
guys.
we say that is their way?
If he
Maliba,
apologizes
this
to
is
Wamaua
wrong. You are going to
and
apologize
apologizes
to
to William.
us.
Arnold.
This
will
is not
apologize
what
Arnold.
Gerard, you
Arnold.
must control
Guys.
your show. This
All
is
right.
not how
Guys.
we do things.
All right. Order,
If
guys.
there is a
Order, guys.
violence somewhere
guys.
in this country, we do not pick the whole community and begin to say
Exactly,
this is how
and
they
we
are.
should not rationalize
So-
that.
And
So-
we will not profile
We
the
will not
community.
rationalize
That
that.
is
We will not
profiling.
rationalize. We will
and
not
I
profile
think
the
you are
community.
used to
All
it.
right.
You
Order,
are-
guys.
I think
When
you are
you
used to
rationalize-
it.
Guys, order,
Yeah.
guys.
When you rationalize somebody being
Order, guys.
manhandled, By the way, if he thinks that I should apologize for saying what I said, he should apologize to our Maua. And by the way, you need to calm
the
down.
The ODM has written officially to apologize to Amaua.
You are denying.
That's the party.
That's the question I was asking you.
Yes, let's move. Let's move from that.
The party has taken responsibility. You are here denying.
Yes.
Let's move from that.
So can your UDA also take responsibility of throwing stones to Raila in Durai and the violence?
UDA was not there.
But Mwaura was on TV saying
Mwaura is a member of parliament of Jubilee.
Gentlemen, let's move forward.
Yes.
Let's talk about
Azimio.
Let's talk about Azimio. Let's get back to Azimio, please.
But do you have coffee?
I think it really happened well, Gerard.
Yes.
Raila went across the country in different regions. There is no one region that remained. And leaders and the people spoke about the issues they think are really important to them and what they would love to see the next government handle or make a priority. Everybody who are in attendance of those meetings accepted that there were problems in the country and they need to be priorities according to every region. And there were things that were cutting across in different regions. The youth spoke, women spoke, persons living with disabilities spoke, and even the elderly. So Raila, having gathered all this information, came to put a question during the Azimio that actually you saw those videos being replayed again just to make sure that it is true we went to Turkana. It is true we went to the coast. It is true because those are records. And it is true these were the things that people were saying. So I think for me that is the different way that Raila has approached this time round. And so putting all that together, right now they are looking at those clips and they are taking those records one by one to actually now come up with a manifesto for the party and the party leader and the presidential candidate. And again, one big question that was asked in all those Azimio meetings is whether mnataka baba aendelee ama asiendelee. It is the people who could say, these are our issues, we want the next government to handle them, but on this other question, we think you should not run again. So the people concurred with him and said, these are our issues, and we also think you should run again. And the big question was put at the National Convention, and the question, the ayes have it. So if the people have said Raila should run again for presidency, I mean, I cannot sit here in your studio and say no. That is the peak of Azimio for me. The people gave Baba opportunity to run again for presidency.
Yes. Right. What's your review of Azimio Moja?
For Azimio Moja, to me, nothing new happened in Azimio because I think for a number of us, even though other people were trying to tell us that probably Raila might not run for president, we all knew that he actually was still in his prime and would still run. So he was declaring what was obvious. But the one thing that comes out of Azimio is that then it puts to rest the games about we will bring in a surprise candidate, the person I will back will surprise you. You know who said that statement. So it's not going to surprise us. And then we have seen the endorsement, the subtle endorsement going on now and then. So that puts to bed the conjecture around somebody else can actually probably be, there is a rabbit somewhere in a hat that is coming out. It was the same old thing. But the one thing that was different about Azimio that looks like it's relatively new is that for the first time, I think since Raila started running, an element, a good chunk of Mount Kenya did some showing up, even if all of them didn't show up. That, of course, if you are a person who believes in data, it's important to actually acknowledge that, even though it wasn't as whole. They had billed it as the biggest thing that will be happening south of Sahara and north of Limpopo. But of course, the 30 governors that were said to have attended were not there. The very many ministers that had been billed to attend, the international dignitaries were not there. But typical of ODM, of course, running on propaganda wings and trying to... You know, ODM can actually make you very small, even if you're a big man. And they can actually make something that is so small to look like it is so big. So you need
Is that
to...
not the essence of politics?
But for them, they actually have perfected the art of buffing up a small thing. So you can actually find a cat in ODM walking around like as if it's a lion. But like if you've got proper eyes, you don't need glasses like mine. You're like, this is just a mere cat that is walking around here. So they had buffed up the whole event like it would be so big, and it was around there. Of course, they picked the who and who. But the things that I noted is that One Kenya Alliance didn't show up. The principles in One Kenya Alliance.
Gideon Moi was there.
Gideon Moi is not a principle of One Kenya Alliance because the proper principles in One Kenya Alliance is just Musalia Mudavadi and Kalonzo Musyoka. Probably if there was a deputy principal there would be Wetangula, but I would think of him as a boarding master, not even a deputy principal. Gideon Moi is a UT, an untrained teacher in One Kenya Alliance because the only thing that Gideon brings...
That's a typical UDA. He talks about ODM making you small, and now he is doing it bigger than making Gideon a whole can. The longest
principle.
No, KANU is the oldest party here, and you're calling
untrained.
So
that is bad withdraw.
If you look at
simply because he came to Baba's function makes him untrained.
So you look at of course I'm not, but even not for Gideon not even coming to Azimio la Umoja, there is no value added from Gideon when it comes to Azimio la Umoja, because even in One Kenya Alliance, Gideon does not add anything. Gideon does not give them money. The only thing that Gideon brings to One Kenya Alliance is the cool kid stuff, the cool kid image, showing up as a cool kid. But if you look at One Kenya Alliance, there is even a better cool
Musalia
kid.
Is much more than a cool kid.
Yeah, so Musalia is even a better cool kid in One Kenya Alliance. So literally there's not so much that Gideon brings to One Kenya Alliance. So I look at it and I feel like there was no principal from One Kenya Alliance who attended the Azimio la Umoja. Who was there is just some guy, an intern at One Kenya Alliance. He doesn't bring money, he doesn't bring weight, he doesn't bring experience, he doesn't bring anything. He doesn't, as in, there's nothing he adds, because even the name Moi in itself, at least for the time being, if we are going to talk about history now that they're insisting on history, is a burden. Okay. It's so much of a burden that we do not need. So there is no principal from One Kenya Alliance who attended Azimio la Umoja. Just some intern from One Kenya Alliance from KANU. In fact, KANU being an old party, by the way, you can actually be old and not have so much value, because today KANU, besides somewhere in Baringo, and by the way, Gideon will struggle even to retain his seat. That is if he is lucky. Leave alone him posturing around as a presidential candidate.
Just the same way Weta is struggling to retain.
Who, Weta?
Yes.
Yeah, for Weta, of course, Weta always threatens to run for president, and there is a river between Trans Nzoia and Bungoma called Luahaha. He doesn't, by the time he crosses that river, he's already a senator. So he goes to Bungoma, tells the people of Bungoma, I want to become president. I'm going to Nairobi to become president. And as he starts his journey to go to Nairobi, by the time he crosses the river Luahaha, he's already a senator. So I don't know how he will manage. So for One Kenya Alliance, I think, but for Mudavadi, it was a little bit of him trying to, I also feel the One Kenya Alliance principles. Kalonzo Musyoka going to Southern Sudan. Raila can come to your show and steal your show. But you cannot go to Raila's show and steal it unless you're William Ruto. So, if, for example, Kalonzo was going to attend Azimio la Umoja, he would have attended as a normal mutu wa kawaida. That's the truth. If Mudavadi was going to attend, he will end up looking like mutu wa kawaida. But when Raila showed up in Wiper's event, you see how Wiper's delegates went calling Raila Igwe. So I think it's not even fair. So away from that, I think Junet was the MC, and I don't know why these people keep on making Junet the MC. When Junet is the MC, anakosea watu wengi sana. Mara amekosea Babu Owino ile side ingine, amefukuza Atuoli, anafukuza sponsor. Unafukuza sponsor wa Azimio, unafukuza. The only person he could not chase was Chairman Masharia from
Royal Media.
From Royal Media.
Okay.
So typical of an ODM event, of course, there was a little bit of chaos. The people were beaten up. You see, Maua being mishandled, and the party coming off. The party chairman actually apologizing, and the SG on the other side trying to rationalize. Him and the SG are on one side. Also, We saw the insecurity that was on Thika Road that particular evening, but there it's documented. You go to Kasarani police station and there are a lot of reports of people who are walinyang'anywa hiyo siku. You wouldn't see that in any other event. At least people take care of their events and you try to put in security. On that particular bit, the director of security in ODM actually needs to be recalled. They need to give other people who know their work. Otherwise, allowing goons to come to your event and characterizing it as a violent event is a failure on the planners. Okay. And it's something they can actually manage. They're actually so good at that.
It's a question.
The bigger picture about Azimio, eventually, the president kept away. We cannot run away from that because Azimio had been built as something that would. The president ran away, and after running away, he then shows up and then sneaks Raila into the Madaraka Day, kurudisha mkono, so that people forget that he didn't show up for Azimio. But we will not forget that when ODM wanted the president to show up for Azimio, he actually put in a disappearing act. The president is a man who has got mobility, tactical mobility at his beck and call. He will have actually parachuted in, addressed that thing and left. So the president is also trying just to manage these guys pole pole tu anacheza tu na wapa karata pale kwingine. At the end of the day we will just realize that the president alikuwa anatupanga sisi wote na ni vizuri I think tuanze kujipanga.
That's a whole propaganda there. I think the president was very much aware of what was happening.
That is why he ran away.
And how do you get 6, 7 or 8 cabinet secretary plus a number of PSS and CASs in a function like that without the president's blessings? How do you do that? When did that ever happen? Can UDA organize? Can UDA organize a national convention right now and we see that happening?
Yes, but then UDA can actually even organize the next election. Na utaona shida. Wachana
na
convention.
Anasema mambo ya ministers attend.
Yeah, can we see the face of government somewhere?
They will actually even send their contribution.
Yes.
But they'll not come.
But no, because you know why they might not show up? They will not show up because immediately they show up, the state will go after them. So we actually.
So what are you saying in short? That the president doesn't have a problem with what was happening in Kasarani. So much as he was not there physically.
To make his brother feel comfortable. You know,
but why does he want to make his brother feel comfortable and the other brother?
I'm actually going to say something that will actually make you very angry, but I will say it.
Say it.
The president is treating his elder brother the way you treat your kid. You know, sometimes you try to speak to a kid and you don't understand the language of a kid. So you just do abuju-buju kababa and everything else. So the president is doing a lot of kabuju-buju to Raila by giving him the minister, ensuring that he is comfortable. And it has been said a lot of times that when you want to actually make Raila not go so far, you make him comfortable.
Yes.
And they have really made him comfortable. They have told him you don't need to campaign. All you need to do is that you have got the system. He has lost Western. They don't want to talk about that. He is losing cost. No one wants to talk about that. For them, their focus is only that focus on Mount Kenya. And you know, Mount Kenya is not the cross. Sio msalaba, because it's only the cross where.
So William is the one who is not focusing on Mount Kenya.
The Bible says that Jesus says that if you lift men unto me, I will show myself, right? So people have actually turned and they have lied to Raila that we just focus on Mount Kenya. And I think by the way the president is helping William. And I'll tell you why the president is helping William.
Those theories have been there since the beginning.
Because you see,
you have said it a lot of time.
It is the president who started the term tanga-tanga. At that particular time, it was supposed to be an epithet of sorts. Ilikuwa ikuwe madharau na matusi. Tanga-tanga has stuck. It is working very well. The other day, the president's friend, the bosom friend called Murade, brought up Alibaba. And I think William Ruto now needs to embrace the term Alibaba. You know why? Because I'll tell you. Let me just take a little bit of time and even educate him on the story of Alibaba. Okay. The story is written by this French guy who was narrated to by some Arabian guys. It's written in a book. Kiswahili tunaita Alfulela Ulela. It's in Alfulela Ulela. It's 1,001 Nights. But normally, in English, we simply call it the Arabian Nights. So in Alfulela Ulela, there is this merchant man. A man who had 2 sons. The firstborn was called Kasim, and the younger one was called Alibaba. So Kasim, when their father died, Kasim took over the father's business. Alinyang'anya kaka brother kake kadogo. He married a rich woman. He was a greedy guy. Alibaba became a woodcutter. Mtu wa kukata kuni. In proper way tunaweza kusema ni kama mtu wa kuuza makaa, mtu wa kuuza kuni. As in Alibaba alikuwa hustler. Proper hustler. Alikuwa anaenda kila siku, anaenda msituni kukata kuni na anauza. One day when Alibaba akihustle huko msituni kukata kuni, mtu wa makaa huko, akaona waizi, a federation of thieves, group of thieves who will steal and then go and hide their loot somewhere in a vault. That vault had a password. You will go to the vault, unagonga, unasema open sesame. And then the door will open, unaingia ndani, then ukimaliza unasema close sesame, na unaingia, unatoka. So Alibaba akaenda huko ndani, akaibia waizi. I want you to get that. Huyu ni hustler, ananyang'anya waizi, wale ambao wameiba vitu za watu. The looters who have looted from people. A hustler is returning that pesa wapi? Kwa raia into circulation. So akibeba hizi coins zenye alichukua tu enough, si zote, just enough. Akapeleka nyumbani. Kupeleka nyumbani, he didn't have a weighing scale, mashine ya kupima. Akatuma bibi yake aende kwa ndugu yake. Send the wife to the brothers, to Kasim's wife, to ask for a weighing scale. So but because Kasim and his wife were all greedy people, Kasim's wife took wax na akaipaka kwa weighing scale. So that at least ishike zile vitu walikuwa wanapima, wakirudisha machine agundue ni nini walikuwa wamepima. So when ilirudi, it came back with a gold coin stuck to it. Then the wife told Kasim, Kasim's wife told him, it looks like your brother is getting a lot of coins somewhere. You need to find out where he's getting these coins. So Kasim went and bullied his younger brother Alibaba and told him, easy coins unatoa wapi? We investigated when you borrowed, when they walirudisha the weighing scale. So, of course, after Alibaba having been bullied and he's just a man who's content with what he can get, he told his brother, I saw thieves and where they hide their loot. The brother, being greedy, decided to go there. He didn't even put in mind what he was told, that ukienda, unasema, open sesame, inafungua, unaingia. Then ukishamaliza whatever you're doing, say,
close
sesame na utoke. So Kasim forgot that, akaenda kuloot kila kitu. Saya kutoka, akashindwa kutoka. So when the thieves came back, they found Kasim inside there. The thieves were so angry that somebody had discovered that they cut Kasim into 4 pieces. And then the wife ya Kasim akakuja akamwambia Kasim has not returned. Akakuja kuambia Alibaba, your brother has not returned. So Alibaba had to go there, wait until when the thieves were away, and then akatoa brother yake akapata amekatwa. Akachukua brother yake akapelekea fundi akamshona hizo parts ndio azikwe kwa heshima. Then the thieves discovered that somebody apart from the man they had killed also had discovered their loot, the access. So they went around investigating. When they went to investigate, they finally discovered it was Alibaba. They tried to kill him 2 times. Every time Alibaba was saved by his maid called Mojiana. Because the Mojiana was a faithful person. Why have I taken time to explain that? Because Alibaba is a hero in that particular story, not a villain. The villain is Kasim. We know the greedy people who even half a country is not enough for them. Half a country for these people is not enough. They still want more. That with what they have, they are still trying to come to other people's house. We know who, for example, went to Moi's house and broke it down in 202. We know, for example, who has actually showed up in the Jubilee's house and is breaking it apart. We all know this particular group of people who are greedy and they want everything else. So Alibaba is a good thing. Now that we have got Baba on the other side, Baba Kasim, we now have got Alibaba on the other side. Alibaba is, by the way, is actually a hero, and that is why Jack Ma is not a madman to name his company Alibaba. If Alibaba was actually a bad guy, if his story is not about a hustler, it's not about being enterprising, it's not about actually working out, people going out, and the story of enterprise and industry, Jack Ma would not have named his company Alibaba. So I want to tell everybody out there who associates with William, including William himself, take up the Alibaba moniker. They called Tanga Tanga, it has worked. They have thrown Alibaba to you. It's because they didn't read, they just thought that and the 40 thieves were looking for Alibaba to murder them. We know the 40 thieves in our country. We know the people who half the country is not enough. They want the full country. So we know who Kasim, we know who the 40 thieves are. But there's no difference between Kasim and the 40 thieves. All of them greedy creatures. Atuwaizi wanakasirika because wameibiwa. Wanaenda kutafuta ule mtu amewaibia. So Alibaba is a hero.
So as talking about the thief,
so from where
we also know who the thief is, and you know the people know. So that's
Which
not
people?
a problem.
Which people? Who owns half the country?
The thieves.
For example, if we were to talk about the richest people in this country.
Yes.
How did they make money? You have spoken about inflated costs of government projects.
Yeah.
Where were they going? Why haven't the people in Kimwarer and Aror been taken to court? Why, for example, you know this, the architecture of government, why would you make the PS a state witness? And they are moving around that story because we know where that money went. I think the people being implicated in Aror and Kimwarer should actually stand up and speak because we know where that money went.
Why are they not standing up and speak?
Because it's not time.
Okay.
Let's wait.
There's
for
a
that
question
time.
for you. There's a
Let's
question
wait
from
for
those.
that time. For now, you cannot assume that they are not.
Now we know Alibaba is a hero. In this particular here,
wait,
Baba.
Maliba. I mean, for you, you can say anything you want to say. The truth is, we all know what has
whose
happened
truth?
in this country
Whose
before.
truth?
Not whose truth. Truth cannot be two.
Whose
Truth is one.
Whose truth?
Truth is one.
It cannot be one, especially when you are talking about those other people talking about truth.
No, we know one truth. If Kanu was in power and what they did
Now Kanu is good.
is one truth.
Now
I mean,
good.
they
Now Kanu is good.
cannot be Kanu for you and Kanu for us.
But now Kanu is good
If
for you people.
Jubilee has been in power for 9 years, what they have done and what has not happened, what they have not
Jubilee
done
was
is
in-
one.
Jubilee-
They cannot
Jubilee was
be
in
what they have
power.
done for you and
Jubilee as a construct was in power for 5 years. What we have now is a Jubo, as in ODM plus Jubilee together.
No,
that is the
that
construct
is
that we
now
have.
small politics.
No,
we
it cannot be small
cannot go
politics.
into.
Why
There's a
would
question
you-
from those for you guys, and they're asking, what is the panelist state of the nation on rule of law in Kenya today vis-a-vis arms of government and the role the current political reality has played, if any?
I'd
And I
like
think we can
Bishop to
combine it
respond
up with the Kinoti saga that we are seeing now. There's a warrant of arrest that has been issued against Kinoti. There's no churn up.
Yeah, I saw the warrant of arrest for Kinoti, and I think it is really, really saddening that Kinoti is supposed to be in jail and he's out walking free. But for us, these are not new things, like Maliba has said. These are not new things. They are things that we have talked about for God knows how long. And we have been told, this is it. This is how it is. So we are still working towards making it right. But this is what we inherited from William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta. And we are hoping that Baba will help Uhuru change his mind on respecting the rule of law, on respecting court orders. Court orders have not just been disrespected in this period. It's like something the Jubilee, including the now newly baptized UDA, waliikuza hiyo. You remember the days when Kimani Ichung'wah wanted to go and add more money to the budget for things like guns and tear gases. You remember the days Ndindi Nyoro were going on their knees to beg Uhuru to just be a dictator. So they planted wakaimwagilia maji. It is now a big tree. So we are all battling and fighting that it could end. But for us, we can only put in our little fight so that it ends. For them, it is something, it's a dog they fed and is now a bulldog and big. He's biting everyone and including them. So we are praying for them.
It's not biting everyone.
It's biting everyone.
It's only biting people who are opposed to Kasim and his friends. You know, why I say that is because when we talk about the rule of law,
Instead of the rule of law.
seriously,
And I would want
is
to
that,
ask
of course,
ODEDE.
one thing that has
Just a
characterized-
minute, just a second. I go back
Yes.
to ODEDE. Talking about the rule of law, we have a Kenyan who has been suffering called Miguna.
Yes.
Who's in Baba Turupak. Talking about the rule of law, there's been several rulings that has been made that Miguna should be gotten it. And sometimes I wonder, is Miguna a victim or a villain? That's an open question. But do you think Baba has tried to advise his brother Uru to bring back Miguna?
I think so.
Okay.
I think Baba has tried
To bring him back.
He even went for Miguna himself at the airport. You remember he was at the airport. And Miguna also is trying to play his politics with the whole thing. But all in all, we know people who escorted Miguna, including Moses Kuria. May he get some healing.
I was afraid where you were going with may he. The ones that can follow.
I mean, may he get some healing. We know how it was fun and it was powerful. So I don't know why everybody think it is Baba who should now work towards bringing Miguna back when Miguna was escorted by the likes of Moses Kuria. And we know the history of Moses Kuria and his politics.
What is Moses Kuria's history?
Yeah, we both know.
No, I don't know.
Until you decided to forget conveniently. How he investigated and even found Musando's car and many things. Unless we are trying to forget things conveniently.
Anyway,
rule of law.
On the rule of law, I'll begin from where he's left and then walk back. I think the Miguna's case is one that we do not address from context. I think that Raila, in his own ways, would actually love to have Miguna here. Let me actually be the devil's advocate. Raila is actually a good-hearted man when he decides to. And Miguna has fried Raila in the past a lot of times. Amemfry mpaka kamuunguza, unananga mpaka inaungua. Even when Raila has not responded back. But I think there are a few issues. There must have been a loophole somewhere in law that allowed Miguna's case to get where it is. Miguna is here also trying to play politics. People will not want to say that. But what was the law when Miguna took up the citizenship of Canada? You know, we are signatories to international protocols.
Yes.
There is how people are supposed to move across borders. It is one thing we can sentimentalize and get emotional about it and everything else. But there is something also. Of course, I do not agree with the manner in which Miguna was treated. All of us know that he was treated so badly.
But do you think Miguna enjoys this drama?
He was treated badly. I do not think that he deserves the drama he's going through. But he
enjoys, right?
I do not know what Miguna's mental state is, but I doubt anyone will enjoy such. The truth is that there is a loophole within which the guys at immigration, and this government is so good, by the way, hata we hapa vile umekaa hapa hivi wako na kafaili pahali tu mpaka tu mee tu pembe watakutolea yako kafaili. Saizi you probably are inconsequential in the way they target things. But there's always something. If you speak to guys who are within the security spectrum, they will tell you there's always something that somebody can then make big around it and harass you around that. So the basic question should be, how did Miguna, for example, become a Canadian citizen when at that particular time the Kenyan constitution did not allow dual citizenship? That if you took up the citizenship of another country, you lost your
original.
And even the architects of the new constitution, the constitution 2010, then said for the people who had lost their citizenship under the old constitution, we then are providing dual citizenship. There is that little thing, and there is no lacuna there. It's a very small thing. It's only that Miguna does not want to accept that he got his ID the wrong way. If you look at the ID he's using around, he's actually serialized, I think, 22 or something like that. That is for guys who were born from 1981 coming to 1984. For a lot of those guys who were turning around that. He got his ID when the late Tieno Kajwang was actually the Minister of Immigration at that particular time. We should also be talking about the fact that even Miguna getting an ID then and everything there at that particular time is that he got it through means that were less than legal at that particular time. And that is why for the people who are breaking the laws now, you know, impunity can be sublet. Like the president today has got immunity, and then of course under it he adds P between M and U sometimes and decides to propagate impunity. So he can sublet and outsource the impunity to the guys in his office, the PS there, the leader of, or rather the leaders of the police formations. But someday somebody else is going to come up. Even in Joseph's day in the Bible, there was a Pharaoh, and Joseph had not even hakukuwa amekosea mtu. Joseph had actually made Egypt prosper. But one day a Pharaoh who did not know Joseph came to power. And the Israelites were asked to go. Somebody who could not remember history. So for the people, for example, the guys within the police service, the people within who are now controlling the levers of violence, those guys are in power today. Somebody has, the president can actually devolve his impunity to some of you. But the president will not devolve his immunity. That's why you see even DCI, he's actually being... so from where we are, by the way, I don't know why the AG and the president are buying a lot of time. They have got a way out to save Kinote. I don't know why they are going left, right, and center around it. It's just for the president to actually declare clemency for the director. Let us not play games, and now we are even dragging in Mutiambai so that also we find him to be in contempt of court orders, and then we also jail him. We are escalating this too far. Let us, there is legal framework to declare clemency for Mutiambai and write it off so that we stop this charade. Because they already mismanaged it at a time when they should have managed this. And it's because of impunity. People thinking we are in power. This is what the law is. The Constitution 2010 is so robust. We can have a rotten judiciary, but this Constitution has got a way of self-healing. It might not heal as fast as you want. And that is why for the people who are in power today, the ministers, the CSS, the PSS, the directors, the commissioners, the chairman of parastatals, who at the moment think that just being close to the president who has got a level of immunity, no one is going to jail Uhuru when he leaves power. I can tell you 100%. We have come up with a way of doing things. No one will touch Uhuru Kenyatta. But I can tell you all these other people who partook in impunity. Same way when Miguna was in Nusumukate government, where he could get an ID without following due process. Because Otieno Kajwang was in power. Kulikuwa na serikali ya Nusumukate. When a different government comes in power and Miguna becomes a thorn in their flesh, they go back and realize. The same way when Mordecai and the other people, they were looking in the books of people who had done good things. The same way when a new government comes in, it goes back into the books and see people who did bad things. Some people do not visit the book of people who did good things. But one time too many people will revisit the book of people who have done bad things. When you are in power, try and comply with the law as much as possible. So the rule of law, the state of the nation when it comes to the rule of law is one thing, because the president has perfected the art. Because the president behaves like the Constitution is written in pencil, and he can always erase what he doesn't like. When we were young, and I've given this example before, we used to say, sometimes the Bible says, do not. Na roho yako sahiyo inataka kufanya hiyo kitu. So you're like, mbona hii Bible ijaandiko in pencil, nifute hii note, so that I do. We are having that problem. And it's a warning people in power today, a few people who are only, by the way, in high school we used to call them local boys. When you work for the head prefect or somebody else, you are not a prefect essentially.
The problem I have, Gerard, with the rule of law when it comes to our government today is the office of the AG, who is supposed to be the legal advisor to the government entirely. I am not convinced that that guy is doing a good job.
Do we have an AG?
We have.
When last did you see him?
We have an AG because the reason why I'm not a lawyer by profession, but I would stand as a Kenyan and ask, because if I have 4 or 5 lawyers in the room and 3 or 4 of them are thinking this way, then I should be persuaded as a man who is not a legal mind that this is what it should be. So the way the courts have declared so many things unconstitutional makes me wonder if our AG is really a lawyer who went through the same schools with these other lawyers or not. Because on the bar are lawyers, although they are called judges or magistrates. They are still lawyers. On the bench, they are all lawyers. So the things like what we saw around NMS and all that,
CASS.
The CASS and all that makes me wonder how the government legal advisor gives those advices. If there could only be 2 things, which okay, now not being an insider, I would not know whether the legal advisor to the government has advised the government the right way and the government refused, or he has not advised the government the right way. Only those 2 things might have happened. One is either he has given the right advice, but the government refused and put aside, or he has given a wrong advice, or completely not gave any advice. Those are the only 2 things.
Tackles of the day.
We need to actually just on the AG thing. It's true. The state law office is either not doing its work, or they are doing their work, and the president is one of those people who advises his advisors. So either the president advises his advisors, or the state law office has failed. My tackle for the day will not be a tackle in the traditional sense of a tackle. I just want to speak about COVID-19. Let us not forget, good people, let us not forget. We are going for a small holiday. We have let down our guard. Do not be lied to because we have had rains and therefore there is a flu that is going around and everything else. There is data that is actually coming up and it speaks to an increase in people being admitted. There's an increase in people actually testing positive for COVID. So let us not argue, let us not be hard-headed. We can do politics with everything else, but not our lives. Up to this point, all of us have actually had at least a relative, a friend, somebody you know buried because of COVID. Good people, still do this. Go for your vaccine. Go for your vaccine. Go for your vaccine. I have been vaccinated myself, and I am not dead. Do I sound like I have got horns? I don't have horns. Go for your vaccine, please. Mask up. Keep on putting on your masks. Social distance. I have seen you people have gone back to shaking hands. Please use the elbows that like we were doing. We don't want to go back to days where we are burying so many people again. We don't want to go back to days where all of us don't like the economy that we went through when we had curfews, when we had cessation of movements. Good people, let us not have cessation of movements coming back. Let us end. COVID is manageable. So have your mask on, social distance, sanitize, take up your vaccine, take up your vaccine. Acha Kiswahili mingi na kizungu mingi. If somebody wanted to kill you, they will not have to do difficult science to kill you. You are not a very difficult person to kill. Sasa tunakutengenezea vaccine ndio tukuue. Achana na ujinga, enda uvaccinatiwe. These people arguing about vaccines, they are everywhere. Please go and get vaccinated. Tuwache mchezo. We are losing people. In my own family, for example, I need to give this example so that we just keep on forgetting. We are a country that has got so much, we get very forgetful. We have buried over 7 people in the last 3 months. There is no time in our extended family where, of course, death is ultimate. But 7 people at a short time, and all of them have got breathing challenges. And of course, people are going to argue around that. At the end of the day, people, COVID is real. Tusipike kizungu mingi, tusirudi pale penye tena tumefungiwa, tusirudi pale penye tunaambiwa kuna curfew. We love freedom. But hii COVID imetufunza kuwa, by the way, hata kama hamuna dictator, COVID can become a dictator to you people. Mtafungiwa, mtashindwa kuenda na hizo places zingine. Tafadhalini. Let us take care of ourselves. That is how then we ensure that the rate of infection goes down. We don't bury people. We don't have people admitted. And we don't have the economy once again grinding to a halt.
All right. MESHACK, your tackle of the day.
Yes, my tackle of the day on 2 things that I feel are very important. There is a debate that has come out lately about history. I think we need to embrace history because it gives us background on why and why not some things happened and others didn't happen. Let's not fear history as a country. It will give us the opportunity to understand where we went wrong. And it will also help us understand what we can make right. We will get to know that we did this once and it didn't go the right way. We cannot do it again. It will not. I think that is, history is even where William Ruto is coming from when he says we have tried up, down, and now it is time to do bottom up. According to him, the history has taught him that up, down has not worked. So history in itself is not bad. I think people who probably get worked up when history is mentioned are people who probably find themselves on the wrong side of history. So any history mentioned, they find themselves mentioned on the other side of history. And again, people who have no history. You know, you can be 80-year-old, but in your history, there is nothing. So the people with nothing in their history are also feeling very bad about somebody or people taking history just really, really serious. So let us not. And finally and lastly, history has also taught us that we fought for democracy. We first fought for self-rule, and then in that self-rule, we fought so hard the Young Turks during the times of Mukisas, the Mathas, the Wangaris, the Koigis and Railas and the rest were really, really agitating for a space so that we have democracy and we have open space where people can gather in one particular political party and ask for leadership through that and another. So there is nothing wrong with Gerard being in the party where he is, with MESHACK being in the party where I am, because if we were not supposed to be in different parties, why did anybody fight for that democracy? Why did we even have to fight so hard, and some people even have to be in jail to open the space? And then when the space is open, now we want everybody in one party. And if Maliba is on the other party and I'm here, he becomes an enemy. That enmity is not supposed to be there. We first need to remember we wanted this, just like the children of Israel. They were told it might not be a good thing. They said, no, we want a king like those other ones. They were told they will oppress you at some point. Sometimes you will work for their children. They, no, we want to be like those other nations. So now that we have our king, we are supposed to deal with it. So once we said the people who fought for democracy are our heroes, then we need to embrace in this generation and accept that Maliba can be in that party, I can be in this party, and that does not stop us from being brothers and being friends. Thank you.
Just before I forget, I had almost forgotten this. He brings up history, and it's important. History is very important, but we should not do revisionist history. Okay. Because a lot of times history is just a carry forward of trauma and people cherry picking. So if we're going to look at history, let us look at it wholesomely. We look at it wholesome, and lest we forget that sometimes yesterday's glory is today's mediocrity. Okay. The third and final liberation, as outlined in Article 43, the socioeconomic empowerment of our people, will of course have to be built from where we have come from, the historical base. Okay. But good people, let us also remember that it is in the history that our country was messed. We will also talk about that. We will also talk about people who introduced cultures that were foreign to our democracy, like trying to commit coups. It is also important. That is also history. It is also important to talk about history being where who killed Tomboya, who killed JM, all those, for example, were hustlers, people who are talking about freedom. Why are we not talking about that? And that there are people who truly, out of that history, paid the ultimate price. They are buried in unmarked graves in villages and different places. We don't talk about them. So let us talk about history all round and also talk about the history of performance, what somebody has done. I will repeat, yesterday's glory is today's mediocrity.
All right. A few comments are the rule of law will only apply in developing countries when the people resist being used like pawns by most politicians and being blinded by unjustified loyalty. Right? I'm seeing who else there. I'm just seeing the YouTube as well. MESHACK, Eric Mutai, do you think the Prezo and Eji wants the DCI and Naji out of office and locking the tenant security through Justice Mumbi? Just a thought. Wambugo Christine, Jillian, young men, Legalo should be the new face of leadership. Those wear face mask, wash your hands, and sanitize and get vaccinated. And good people stay safe during this festive season. Vision Total Kenya from the UK says, Bitok, the rule of law is more important for a nation than economy. That is where Kenya should start. Anyway, gentlemen, before you go, I want you guys to try this. Is sweet tunda, 100% dried fruit. Au just alafu niambia unasikia onjesha umungwana.
Mbona tunaonjesha? Tupatiwe kila mtu paketi yake.
Sasa paketi itakuja tu saa hii.
Tell those guys. Pesa mnataka dini hatuwezi patiwa moja.
1,000 tu unapata paketi yako. Unapata mpa yako. Only 1,000. Here do you ampa. What do you think? What do you think about the product?
Mango?
Dried mango? 100% natural.
Well, I've never eaten a dried mango. I used to think they taste like crepes.
How does it taste?
Yeah.
Ask him.
A value addition, I think, worked out well. Yeah. But how much is it?
For an ampa is something like this. It comes with granola, dried mango, dried pineapple. 2-3 sets. Only 1,000 shillings. So for every purchase that you make, it ensures that as well that we stay on broadcast. These are some of our sponsors, and also every other shilling as well goes to the farmer to ensure that the farmer in the village is able to go back to their land and till their mangoes and get value from it. What do you think about it?
Good. It's really good.
But
especially for holiday.
Why do they say that mango is the king of fruits?
I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I'm asking. I've always read, and while I was young, we used to say the mango is the king of fruits.
Yeah. And now that you tested, do you think it's a king of fruits?
I think the person who came up with that Anatoka Ukambani.
All right, that is Sweet Tunda, 100%.
Nasema pineapple.
But kuna mango mingi sana kutoka EMC, Elgeyo Marakwet.
Yeah. Even actually Garissa, you'd be surprised. Right. So for every purchase that you make a ramper, it goes for only 1,000 shillings, and you get granola, vale, kitu kama hii from Sweet Tunda. You get some granola, you get some dried mango, and some dried pineapple. For only 1,000 shillings, you get your amper. Amper from Sweet Tunda, 100% natural, healthy intelligence. And these guys are saying they enjoy the fruit. ODEDE kwanza nasema ni tamu sana. Haya, ODEDE, utachukua ampa yako. ARNOLD, MALIBA, utachukua ampa yako ili uweze kwenda kuenjoy.
Sawa. Meanwhile, MESHACK unajua hata nitachukua hamba ya MESHACK. Yeye amenipigia kelele sana kwa show. So I'm taking his hamba.
Kwa nini?
Kwenda kuambia mwili yangu pole kwa sababu nisikia kelele yake.
Akununulia hamba. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Hope to see you again. And by the way, get serious. COVID-19 is real, and I mean, there's no better way to be than to be safe. So stay safe, and see you again. We're doing our last show tomorrow for closing in for the year. So hoping to see you tomorrow in good numbers as we wish each other Merry Christmas. Until then, bye bye.